DisGraced, and I've got to say, I absolutely love it. So I was wondering if you could start. I was wondering if you could start off by telling our listeners a little bit about where you came up with the idea for the series in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of came as a culmination of all of my own crazy experiences in this industry as an actress. And then me and my writing partner were watching TV one night, and we saw a girl that basically had kind of the same story as Grace, where she was in this like action franchise that was, you know, a big flop. And then her career kind of took a after that, and she was we saw her in some like Skinamax movie. We're like, hey, isn't that the girl that was like in the lead of this thing? And we were just interested in the idea that it's so often that the actor is kind of blamed for a movie flopping, even though so much of it has to do with nothing to do with them, right? There's so many other factors that go into whether a movie's successful or not. So we kind of like the idea of her having had like a piece of almost success and then having it taken away, because it just seemed more fun to play with that. So that was kind of the inspiration. And then we just took a bunch of my own personal ideas and we kind of mined them for material, and there you have it.
Yeah, I'm actually at the moment working with a friend on a series that's based on what we went through when we were in uni. How much fun did you find it is to go back over your own personal stories and put it into script form?
It was amazing. I mean, all like, obviously, if you saw it, you know that some of these experiences are pretty terrible, but, like,
yeah.
You gotta choose to laugh at them and find the fun in them. But, yeah, it was kind of both horrible and awesome to see them written down all in once, you know, to really like go through and be like, okay, what have I been through, like to really mine that for these things and kind of pick the best and the worst from them. But it was great. It was tons of fun. And, you know, I feel like fact is always stranger than fiction. You can't make it up, right? Like, some of the best stuff is just so crazily unbelievable that it just makes great material. So a lot of this stuff we had to actually tone down, believe it or not, because the real stories are even crazier. So yeah, it was tons of fun. I think you'll really enjoy that process.
Yeah.
Getting to mine from your own experiences.
When you were writing it too, did you keep on finding that you kept on falling down these kind of like rabbit holes? We keep on finding that we'll remember an incident and we'll put it into the script, and then my friend will be like, hey, do you remember then this happened and then this happened, and then before you know it, you've got too many ideas for that episode? Did that kind of thing happen to you as well?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. We actually, we had written 4 additional episodes that we weren't able to film just for budgetary reasons. You know, we had to make decisions as to which ones we would go forward with. So we definitely had, and that was the ones that we, you know, narrowed down all of the experiences to write the episodes. So yeah, there's definitely a plethora of that. And it's funny because I think a lot of times with these, especially for me, because some of these were like terrible, awful experiences that you kind of push it down and like stick it in the back of your mind and try to push it out of the way so you can actually have some self-esteem. So like then when you start remembering, you're like, oh yeah, oh, that reminds me, there was this other thing and this other thing, and you know, you having all these ideas. But I don't think too many ideas is never a bad thing, I would say, as a content creator. So.
And how strange was it for you as an actress to then act out things that had happened in your own life then in front of cameras? Did that feel kind of strange to you?
Yeah, it definitely did. I would say it was definitely very vulnerable at times. And it's kind of a cool and interesting thing because there's like the actor side of me that's, you know, experiencing it as Grace in the moment and like really living these things. And then there would be the producer side of me that would be like, this is amazing! You know, like as I'm being insulted and like being made to feel like I gotta cry and all, you know, all these things. So it's like there were kind of those two halves happening at the same time where the producer part of me like loved, the worse it was for Grace, the better it was, you know? So the producer part was like, yes. And then me as the actor going through it was like, you know? So it was a very cool experience.
Yeah. What was your favorite scene and favorite episode to shoot when you were doing it?
Yeah, okay, so probably it's tied between Once Beautiful Woman, which is episode 3, and then Hollywood Heartthrobs Part 2. Those were both just like from the writing process and the shooting process, like every step of the way, those were my favorites. And then the way that they came out when the finished product, like they were still my favorites. So yeah, those two were so much fun. Once Beautiful Woman, the scene where Tiffany, the actress who's like just roasting me, we just let her go like during the filming process. So like what's in it is just like, you know, a tiny smidge of what she was saying to me. So it was just so funny, like I was talking about, to have the two halves of the brain, you know, the producer side going, yeah, give it to me, this is amazing, and the actor side going like, oh my god, this is awful. So that scene was just great, when she's just like roasting me with insults. It was so funny and so bad at the same time. And then the Hollywood Heartthrobs, honestly, that was just so much fun to conceptualize and then to make it happen, just, with our everything about that. We just had so much fun. So yeah, those two are probably my favorites for the whole process.
Yeah. As producer and creator, you also had control over casting. Does it make casting more difficult when you're trying to cast actors and actresses to play parts of real people that you've had experiences with over the years?
Yeah, casting is definitely a challenge all around. Casting is a very difficult process. I have a ton of respect for casting directors. So the good thing I will say is that because I have this acting background, I am fortunate in that I know tons of actors, right? From projects that I've done, from acting classes, from auditions, even when you meet people. So I had a wide pool to pull from. So as much as possible, I always try to cast people that I know, because I know their work ethic, I know what they bring to the table, I know that they're going to be cool to work with on set. And then when I have to, put on casting calls and we go the traditional way. And so I think it's more about it's an interesting thing that happens with casting, because you definitely have an idea in your mind, especially if it's based on a real person, of what you want them, what you want it to look like or how you want it to go. But it's also going to be amazing where someone brings in something totally different, which maybe isn't how it went down or wasn't how you see it at all in your head, but it's also just a great take.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you go that way. Sometimes it's like, I never saw it that way, or that wasn't at all how the person really was, but this is really cool. Like, I love what they're doing. And then it adds something different to it. So I think casting can be really awesome that way, in that sometimes it's those unexpected surprises that are actually different, that deviate from what you thought you wanted or what you had based it on, that can still be really amazing. So I think that's what's great. It's like, it's an art form, right? So everyone's bringing their own creative spin to it and putting their stamp on it. So I think when people really do that, that's great. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it matches and it's perfect and it fits, and sometimes it's different, but that's what's really cool.
Yeah. Did you always plan for it to be a web series from the very start? Because I know here in Australia at the moment we're having a huge debate over online cinema and online television versus actual television and cinema, and there's been a huge debate because of the lockdown. Was that something that you'd always planned for it to be a web series?
So with this, the answer is yes and no. We do actually have a half-hour pilot version that we wrote as well. Me and my writing partner, we had been writing a ton of scripts. So we wanted to do something that we could actually produce and see through to the end. And our experiences in the past had kind of told us that web is a great way to go, because it's easier. There's a lot more freedom in terms of structure, which is great as a creator. TV and film writing can be so rigid in the structure, which is awesome. It has to be. But with web, you have a little bit more freedom and creative control. Also, it's great because people have tiny attention spans, so putting it in bite-sized chunks can be really great to get it out there. If they want to watch the whole series in one sitting, it's great. But if they want to just sit down for 5 minutes, then they can have that too. And as far as before COVID happened and there were still film festivals and stuff, we were very cognizant of runtime. Because as festival programmers, they're always trying to cram as much as they can into their festivals, right? So they can have as much content as possible. So the shorter your runtime is, the better you tend to play at festivals and the more festival opportunities you tend to have. So we were kind of cognizant of that as well. So for all those reasons, we definitely were very conscious of wanting to make a web series so that we could do it ourselves, release it ourselves, put it out on the festival circuit, and have all those opportunities that were out there. So, yeah, I think, I think that there are definitely unique opportunities when you are creating web content that are not necessarily available for traditional TV. And also it's a way for you to be direct to consumer, I guess, direct to your fans. You can release it immediately. You don't have to go through networks. And, obviously it's quite a process to be able to get something on TV.
Yeah.
So this you're able to kind of bypass that and show the world what you wanted to do out there. So after having dealt with the TV side of things and going about it that way and writing a lot of scripts and sometimes you just want to have that sense of completion to be able to actually get a project done all the way through and get it out there on your own. And so that is why we chose to do the web format.
Yeah. You just mentioned that there's a TV pilot there as well. One of the things I found when I watched this was as soon as I got to the end of it, I wanted more. Are you looking at doing a season 2, or are you looking to now develop it more for television?
Yeah, we kind of, the way that we looked at this was we would gladly do a season 2 if someone else is footing the bill. If someone wants to give us money to develop it for a streaming service or whatever, we would gladly make a season 2. But kind of for us, we don't feel like we can do it anything better, or anything, we called in so many favors. We were able to have such amazing locations and amazing cast and whatever on a tiny little budget. So, I feel like in order to do something bigger and better, we're going to need to level up, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So we would definitely do it if an opportunity came about where that allowed us that opportunity. Otherwise, we kind of would probably rather focus on adapting it kind of for a half an hour format for television, or just, using it as, we kind of wanted to do it as a calling card to kind of show our POV and what we can do and see what other opportunities, it can open for us. Because like I said, we have multiple other projects and stuff as well. But yeah, I mean, I love Grace. I love the story. We definitely would be open to doing it as well. That was like the number one complaint. People kept telling me, where's the rest? I want more. And I'm like, I want more too. Give me money.
Yeah. Shooting on such a small budget, what was the challenges that you faced when you were shooting, and what kind of things on set just worked absolutely brilliantly, so well that you couldn't expect it?
Yeah, well, we were so lucky because we had done a couple shorts and a couple other things. So me, my writing partner Eric, and then our director of photography Frankie, who also directed 2 of the episodes, including Once Beautiful Woman, one of my favorite ones. He directed that and Dumb Slut. We had worked together on multiple things, and we have such a great working relationship and such a shorthand that with us as kind of the basis for everything, the rest just kind of fell into place. So that was fantastic. We were really lucky that we kind of worked so well together as collaborators, and we had that great environment. And then Frankie, obviously working as a DP, he has his crew that he brings in, so he has a shorthand with those guys, and we had a great, fantastic crew. I also am so lucky. I was overwhelmed with the generosity of just people that I know in my life from various things. I do a lot of animal welfare stuff out here, like animal rescue work, and a lot of my friends from the rescue organization work in the industry in various capacities, and they gave me locations and they gave me all kinds of stuff. So that was really amazing as well. So you call in a lot of favors. I believe very strongly in paying people because I want to, and I think it needs to. So everyone cut their rate significantly, but we did pay our crew and our cast. But we basically didn't have to pay for any locations, which is a huge expense when you have to pay for locations. So that was a great thing to knock off. And we just kind of were able to do a lot of things with that. So I think one of the lessons that I've learned with doing independent filmmaking, and especially when you have a limited budget, is trying to look at the things you can control and the things you can't, and the areas for creativity that don't cost you any money. So, like, there were a lot of, for example, like the second episode, there were a lot of things where, like, the initial idea that we had for it or wanted to do for it, we just couldn't do it because of budgetary reasons. We didn't have a location that would work. We couldn't afford all those extras, all these things like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so we can't do this, but how can we achieve a similar result or get a similar feel that won't cost us anything? So that's why we decided to do episode 2 as a oneer, because I wanted movement and I wanted whatever. And the way that we originally had envisioned it, there was going to be a lot of movement. So we couldn't get that movement in terms of the location and what they were going to be doing. So then it's like, okay, let's get it through the camera movement, right?
Yep.
So I think kind of looking at that kind of stuff, like looking at the ways that you can be creative that don't cost you money, that's a really good skill to have, and that's a really important thing to look at, because I think for us, like, one of the main thing that we wish we could have more of was like just people, more background actors, more
Yep.
Stuff like that, where it makes a difference, right? Just those little kind of things. So it everything like that, but you kind of have to pick and choose your battles as far as what really is going to make the difference in terms of the quality of this thing, and put the money where it's going to be the most effective, right?
Definitely.
But yeah, obviously, filmmaking is incredibly expensive endeavor. So, yeah, we were really lucky that we had a great cast and crew that were able to cut the rates for us, and that, like I said, we had access to a lot of amazing locations. That made a huge difference. Otherwise, it would have been like quadruple the budget of what we ended up spending.
Yeah. And having it released during while everyone's in lockdown, have you seen that as a bit of a benefit because people have been able to watch it while they've been in lockdown, or have you found that it's kind of impacted on some of the plans that you had for the series?
Yeah, it definitely has. We had our in-person premiere set for the end of March. So obviously we had to adjust that. So our original plan for this was to have our little cast and crew premiere in March, and then, submit it to festivals, let it do its thing on the festival circuit, and not release it online until the end of its festival run. But obviously, COVID and the pandemic changed things drastically. So when that happened, and, we obviously couldn't have our in-person premiere, and then we realized, okay, people are going to be stuck at home, and who knows if festivals are going to be happening, this year at all in any capacity, or maybe just moving online. So we definitely had that discussion. We decided that it's kind of a weird, unique opportunity in a way, because people are at home and they do want content, right? And eventually, like, Netflix is going to run out of new shows, and you're going to be bored and need something else to watch. So we definitely decided to release it during this time and just kind of scrap the original plans that we had, because obviously this is not a textbook year for anybody. So we just kind of decided to go ahead and release it and take advantage of that and put it out into the world and see what happens that way. So yeah, you make plans, you got to change them quite often.
Definitely. Well, Victoria, it's been so great being able to chat to you today. Is there anything you would like to say to our listeners out there before they go out and check out DisGraced this weekend?
Oh, I would thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. I hope you guys enjoy it, and definitely for all the creatives out there, do your thing, keep plugging away, just do it. You gotta make your stuff and take those risks and put yourself out there. It's fantastic. So thank you so much for having me.
Not